Welcome back to the Whole Nine Yards here. Drew Pien here with Brandon Krikorian. Brandon, how's it going?
Whew. Good on a pretty rainy day here.
Yeah, it's raining pretty bad.
Yeah, all day.
Not fun getting here.
Yeah, no.
Well, solid Sunday. We didn't record Sunday night, so we'll talk about the games. First off, predictions. I'm now officially above 500. I'm 17, 16, and 2 after going 3 and 2 this week. I catch up. I'm one game closer now. Brandon went 2 and 3, but it obviously 2 and 3 is not great. But Brandon, you said if you went 2 and 3, you'd be happy.
Yeah.
So
and yeah, I that's exactly what I said. And you beat me on the Ravens Bengals one. That was one that that was probably one of my more confident ones. I think I said the most confident one of mine was the Chiefs one, which we both picked.
Yeah.
And that was terrible. Literally not even close. But to still go 2 and 3 after those being my two 1 o'clock games and starting off 0 and 2, they both got blown out. To still finish off 2 and 3 and having a chance. The Rams, they had a chance to possibly get it over 16, but they honestly didn't play a great game. But yeah, like I said, 2 and 3 I'd be happy with, and that's exactly what I want. And you only went 3 and 2, so it's not like you went 4 and 1 or 5 and 0. It's only one game, so it's really not that big of a deal in my head, I would say.
Yeah. Really quickly, actually, can you move that mic though and the camera that's kind of blocking you? But there's two teams that I'm officially just okay. I'm not done for the season betting on them, but until they prove me otherwise, I'm done picking them, and that is the Panthers. They're just I didn't think they'd skid as far as they have. I didn't think nobody thought they were going to be a dominant team when they were 3-0 or anything. But yeah, I'm done picking them, and then the Chiefs.
You're done picking the Chiefs
for now. I want to see them have their bounce back game, and then I'll start picking them again. I don't even know if the Giants can qualify as that. If they can beat the Giants 42-0 or 42-7, then I'll start picking them again. And this is not me saying that I'm done with the Chiefs, as a football team this season. I don't feel confident enough for me to keep saying this is their bounce back game. This is their bounce back. I've said that for the past 4 weeks now, and they really haven't had it. So I'm just done. I want to see them, go beat either a really good team soundly or beat the Giants 42-7, and then, I'll be ready to start picking the Chiefs again. But if they beat the Giants 30-20, I'm not gonna be wow, the Chiefs are back, and then I'm gonna start picking them again. I'm not gonna pick them for a while now. Frankly, after last week, it's despicable. I can't.
Yeah. I give you credit. We'll get into our predictions later, but let's just say I'm not off picking the Chiefs for this season so far. So I give you credit for not going to them, because I would agree they've played awful. Honestly, we'll just start with that game because the games this week weren't that good anyways. To be honest, even the games that were close weren't even good games. So we'll start with that one. Probably like we said, we both picked Chiefs in this one. The line was 5. They came out just lifeless, and that's not what we expected. When we talked about it last week, we thought this would be a game where you're playing against a team on the road that you've had some history with, but they're coming off a huge win at home Monday night against the Bills. Probably the best team in the AFC, at least at that point. Probably still, honestly. But still at that point, coming off a huge win there. You go into their stadium probably thinking that they'd such a high. Now that you're still the Chiefs, and they're still probably amped up to play you, but not as high as they probably would have been because on your performance and also just the performance that they had on Monday night. So it seemed like a good opportunity for them to bounce back. Their defense was going against, obviously, Henry, and then other than that, Jones and Brown don't really scare you that much, even though Brown did have a good game in this one. But Henry didn't. So I thought they did a pretty good job against Henry, to be honest. Only 86 yards rushing. So that wasn't – I don't think that was really a problem. Today, or at least Sunday, was just the offense. That's the way I looked at it. Against a really bad Titans defense who had, I think, 7 of their 11 DBs are on injured reserve, or at least were injured for this game. So they had to obviously call up some practice guys and whatever, sign guys, and play kind of a weird secondary. So for them not to expose that at all, not even score a touchdown, 3 points, get shut out in the first half, which I don't know when the last time that happened to the Chiefs was, just inexcusable. It's something that we obviously did not expect. And yeah, I don't disagree with you for you jumping off of them, at least for the time being, because they haven't played like any top team. They're 3-4. I mean, like your record is what your whatever your record is, that is what you are as a team, and I would say they're playing like a 3-4 team.
I would agree. They're playing like a 3-4 team now. With that being said, I think some people are going a little bit overboard. I still think, listen, if you made me pick a Super Bowl team out of the AFC right now, if I'm not picking the Chiefs, they're probably second or third. And honestly, there's a very solid chance I'd be picking the Chiefs right now. Because at the end of the day, even though Mahomes has played not like an MVP candidate, he's still my best quarterback in the AFC. I still have him as the best quarterback. I still have Andy Reid as, if not the best head coach in the AFC, top 3 or 4. This defense has not been great, but they don't have to be great. I mean, they just have to be a playmaking defense that's going to give up some plays, but also will make a couple plays, and that's really all this offense should need. I have full faith in the offense getting better. It's just about, can the defense be good enough? I don't want to compare it to the Brooklyn Nets of last year where it's like, your defense is so bad, but everybody knows your offense is great. It's not necessarily like that, but it's close. And I do have faith that by the end of the season, this Chiefs team will be good enough to win the Super Bowl. Are they going to win their division? I don't know. I think I would still pick them to win their division right now. Even though the Chargers have played pretty well, the Raiders have played at least not as bad as people thought. The Broncos, meh, but...
To be honest, I don't know if they actually will. Again, looking forward, they play the Giants this week, but then Packers, Raiders, Cowboys. I mean, that's a tough 3-game stretch right there. Obviously, the Raiders are winning that division, but the Chargers had a bye. But still, they're winning that division. Then you go play Broncos, Raiders, Chargers. That's 3 division games right there. Steelers, Bengals, Broncos to end it off. So it's not the easiest schedule. And if the Bengals continue to play like they've been playing, that's going to be a tougher game than you obviously thought it was going to be when you started the season. Obviously, the Chargers already beat you once. They could easily beat you again. The Raiders twice. It seems like the Raiders always split with the Chiefs every single year. So it's definitely not the easiest. And even at Denver, the last week of the season, you're at Denver. That's probably going to be a cold game, maybe snow. That's probably not going to be an enjoyable game for you. And you might need that to win to get into a wild card spot. Honestly, I mean, you may be at that 9-win, 8-win territory right there, and you may need a win right there. So that could be a tough game as well. So I honestly don't think they will win the division. Now maybe the Raiders fall apart, maybe the Chargers fall apart. It's obviously easy. 2 teams that the Chargers too young, and the Raiders are talented, but obviously with the coaching stuff, all the thing off the field, they're probably not as talented as Chiefs and Chargers. So they could fall apart as well. But right now, the way I see it, I don't see them winning this division. But yes, I still see them getting in a wild card spot. Now, where would that be? I don't know. But yeah, I definitely see them as a wild card team at the minimum, I would say.
I would be shocked if this team didn't make the playoffs. Mahomes is too good, and obviously Mahomes has not played great. Can we stop with like there have been people saying like, they thought they would figure Lamar Jackson out. They thought they'd figure it was somebody else out, and then they were like, but it was actually Mahomes that they figured out. And I was like,
no, they haven't. Yeah,
nobody's figured Mahomes out.
He just
hasn't played well.
If you and it's weird to say, but if you take the turnovers away, I mean, his numbers are amazing on the season. I mean, he came into on Sunday's game with like 1,800 yards, 18 touchdowns. It's just that he had 8 picks and a couple fumbles, and that he added on to that in this game as well. But I think that teams they looked at what Tampa did last year in the Super Bowl and are at least applying that defense to this team. And I just don't think they've adjusted to it quite fully because that offensive line isn't healthy and isn't as good as it obviously was before the Super Bowl last year when everyone got injured and then they just had so many fill-ins there. But I don't think they figured out Mahomes, not at all. He's still the best quarterback in the league. I don't think people may say he's not right now, and maybe right now he's not, like a power ranking he's not, but if you were to do overall quarterback, Mahomes is still number 1, and I think you would agree with that.
I would agree with it. I don't know that everyone would, though. I think there are some people that are genuinely...
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people... I think people would have Allen there. I think people could have... Dumb. People would probably have Brady there, to be honest. I mean, he probably is number 2, so... yeah, I think people would have different guys there. Lamar would definitely still be up there on the way that he's playing. But, yeah, Mahomes is clearly still the best quarterback in the league. Kyler as well, but...
All right, so if you could have one quarterback for your team for just the rest of this season, You can incorporate the way they've played so far if you want to. You can choose to not if you don't want to. You get one quarterback for the rest of this season. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Mahomes. It's rather him or Allen, but I'm taking Mahomes. I think like I said, he's the best quarterback in the NFL, no matter what his play looks like. So, yeah, I think Mahomes.
I would agree.
Yeah, and I think most people would agree, but at the same time, I think a lot of people would have different opinions on that. But like we said, they play the Giants this week. That should be a win. So look, you're at 4-4 after 8 weeks. I think you have to look at that, and you just have to see like, all right, let's not look at anything happened in the last 8 weeks. We're 500. We're basically 0-0. Just go out, win. They would have 9 more games after that, 9 more games. Just go 7-2. Go 6-3. Like, that's what they should be looking for. That's what they should be expecting. Because again, they are that good. It's just the defense has to play better, and Mahomes has to stop turning the ball over. If those two things happen, there's no question this team is still one of the better teams in the AFC, even if the record won't show it at the end of the season.
The Chargers definitely have an easier schedule than the Chiefs the rest of the year. With that being said, though, I still don't view the Chargers as that consistent of a team. Their last game they got stomped by the Ravens, and the Ravens are looking great, but they did just get stomped by the Bengals. So,
yeah,
it's tough you can't really do the whole transitive property thing in the NFL. But listen, what I'm saying is that the Chargers, while they have looked like a great team, could be plenty inconsistent. So yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of the Ravens and the Bengals, that game, we can go to that one now. That one's 41-17 Bengals. Drew picked the Bengals in this game. You clearly did not expect this to happen, but I guess what did you see from the Bengals that I guess we haven't really seen against the Ravens so far this year? I mean, they haven't been blown out so far this year, and yeah, the Bengals went into Baltimore and just completely destroyed them.
Yeah, so last week I picked the Bengals plus 6.5, and I mean, I was not expecting a Bengals win. I was expecting it to be a close game, and I ultimately thought the Ravens would win, but it would be really close. I did not expect this game to be anything like a blowout at all. I thought it'd be competitive, and the Ravens would probably squeak out the winner. Maybe you never know, the Bengals could win. Sorry, I got a phone call. Listen, I was not expecting Jamar Chase to go off like he did, and that he's been like the guy that people have been talking about. If he's like, the best rookie offensive player ever, or the best rookie, maybe even a top 5 receiver already in the league. I don't know that I'd go that far, but yeah, I just think the Ravens came out flat and the Bengals were just the better team that day. Now, with that being said, I still think the Ravens are the best team in this division, and I would probably say I still think when fully healthy, the Browns are better than the Bengals, and maybe not right now, but by week 15 going into the playoffs, I think the Browns are probably still the better team, and if they're not, that's a huge statement on Baker Mayfield. And if the Browns aren't the second best team in the division by week 15 or whatever, then I think that you've officially reached your answer on Baker Mayfield's extension and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't read too much into this victory. I just don't think the Ravens had a good week, and I think they were kind of riding a high for a while. They'd kind of squeaked by on a couple games. You beat the Chiefs, you beat the Chargers, and then you're due for kind of a game where you kind of fall down or fall back to earth or whatever. And I think this was kind of their game, but yeah.
Yeah, and the Bengals, they play the Browns in 2 weeks, so we'll see if the Browns are even fully healthy for that game. Again, Baker, if they were playing on Sunday, maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. But with the playing on Thursday of last week, obviously he wasn't going to play. But yeah, if they get Chubb back, Hunt back, Baker back, Jarvis came back last week, so you get him back. So yeah, once they get everyone healthy again. They should be the second best team in this division. I mean, possibly the first best team, but it's with the way the record is right now, they're just not going to be able to catch up with a Ravens team that is better than the Bengals and the Browns. So they should end up they should be better than the Bengals. But again, we'll see. The Bengals are 5-2. They already beat the Ravens. The Browns are after beating the Broncos on Thursday 4-3. So we'll see what happens in 2 weeks. I think it's going to be a really good matchup. The Bengals play the Jets this week, and the Browns play the Steelers. So if you're the Browns, you need a win there, because if you were to lose this game against the Steelers, then lose against the Bengals, you're done for the division for sure. And then we'll even see about a wild card at that point, because you'd be 4-5 with the injury concerns and everything. It'd be a huge problem there, but that's going to be a really good game. And we'll see if the Bengals are for real. I mean, do you think the Bengals are not for real as they're a Super Bowl contender, but do you think they're for real as at least possibly winning a playoff game, depending on who they play, obviously?
Possibly winning a playoff game, yeah. I think it definitely depends on who they're playing. I still think on paper this team is, like I said, the third best team in the division. Will the standings play out that way? We'll see. I mean, the Bengals are 5-2 and the Browns are 3-4. So the Browns have some ground to make up, but I still think on paper they're the third best team in the division. It would depend on who they're playing in the playoffs. Do I think they could beat a Chiefs, assuming the Chiefs return back to what they are? Or do I think they could beat a Bills right now? No. Do I think they could even beat a Ravens? If they weren't in the same division, I would say no. I think that caliber of team, the Bengals, are not capable of beating in the playoffs. But because, particularly with that matchup, since they're division opponents, I think it's more, more variable than if it was non-division gameplay. Or
do you think they could beat the Chargers?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, because right now the Chargers are in 6th place in the AFC playoff picture. Again, all this is going to change at some point. I mean, the Chiefs aren't even in the picture right now. And then you still have a Steelers hanging on, a Browns at 7, Baltimore's at 5. So Bengals right now are technically the first seed in the AFC. But that's most likely not going to stay throughout the year. Maybe it does, but I'd be very surprised. But yeah, I think a Chargers, a Browns, they could beat. Even like a Tennessee, I think they probably could beat. Now, I'd probably pick Tennessee in that game, but I think it would be a close game. I think they definitely could beat them. A Raiders, I think they could beat, but a Chiefs, assuming that they're at least somewhat back to normal, probably Chiefs. They wouldn't beat. Ravens probably wouldn't beat. Buffalo probably wouldn't beat. So yeah, I think that they probably could win a playoff game, but it'd have to be against one of those other teams that we were talking about. And we'll see if they match up against them. And again, we'll see what they end up as the record. And they're already 5-2. You would assume they probably end up with at least 10 wins, right? I mean,
I can't assume that yet. I just listen. The Bengals have been as inconsistent as like any franchise in the NFL, and their schedule's kind of difficult. I mean, you have the Jets this week, so you assume that's a win. But then you go Browns, Raiders, Steelers, Chargers, Niners. The Broncos are kind of an easy opponent, but it's at Denver in the middle of December. Like, that's a tough week.
Yeah.
Then you go Ravens, Chiefs, and then you finish off the year in Cleveland. Which that could be a big game. I mean, that could be for the last wild card spot.
Yeah.
You could be, realistically, you could be 9 and I don't know. You could have a solid record going into the last 3 weeks of the season, whatever that happens to be. But if you lose Ravens, Chiefs, Browns all back to back to back, that you could fall out of the playoffs, because the Chiefs are more than likely a wild card team. If they're not a wild card team, then the Chargers are, and they play the Chargers. You also have the Ravens that could be a fight for the division or a fight for a wild card spot, and the Browns is probably a fight for a wild card spot. So it's interesting. We'll see what happens. Yeah, Jamar Chase will have to also keep playing at this level, which I don't know if he can do. Listen, he's been great, and I think people are using his stat line with it's. I think he has 37 catches on the year, and they're using that as they're using that to credit his abilities, and I'm not sure that I could go that far. I just as cool as it is to average 20 plus yards a reception, or what I think he's averaging like 22 yards a reception right now. I would much rather be a receiver that has this same amount of yardage and touchdowns on 20 more catches, to be honest. I just think that shows more consistency, I should say. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but
so you'd rather have him have less, what'd you say? More catches but less yards, is that what you said?
Well, not necessarily. I'm just not sure that his play is going to be consistent going forward, because a lot of his plays happen to be 40, 50-yard plays.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
he's
not sure that that's like, and I'm not saying he's bad or anything. Like I just think we should slow it down because there's been some high praise for Jamar Chase. I'm talking like already a top 5 receiver in the league.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, obviously that's not true or anything, but it's not like he's a Ruggs where it's if he's catching the ball, it's 30 yards downfield or it's a 50-yard, 60-yard touchdown. He's never gonna run like a 10-yard route and like get like 12 yards consistently. That's just not the type of receiver he is. I think Chase is that receiver. I think he does have the big play ability. Now the one against the Ravens, like that was just a normal slant that he just broke a tackle and then I don't know what the safeties were doing on that play, but I think he is more of a traditional receiver. I think he has big play ability, like where if he gets the ball in his hands, he's most likely breaking a tackle, and he has the speed to go down the sideline and score a touchdown from 60 yards. And so, yeah, and does he like go deep a lot and get deep balls? Yeah, for sure. And I think, obviously him and Burrow do have that connection from college, so I think that helps clearly, but I think I'd put him more like a him and like a Jefferson. We talked about that like last week or 2 weeks ago. Between them two, I think they're very similar. And I think he's different than like a Ruggs or like what a John Ross was supposed to be, like a someone like that. And I never, I'm not saying that you were thinking that that's who he is, but I think he is more like he is like a top receiver type player in that he is consistent and he's a good route runner and he's not just deep, he's not just short. He is kind of all routes and he can run and he can get the ball at any place and then make a big play out of it.
Yeah, I don't think he's like a John Ross or what he was supposed to be. I'd like to see some more just get him the ball type of plays, and maybe it's a slant over the middle, 5 yards. Maybe it's just some more screen plays. Maybe it's some more just listen. So he's first in average yards on a reception. So every reception he averages 21.5 yards.
Yeah,
which is good. Obviously, you'd prefer for that stat to be as high as possible. He's second in yards, tied for 4th in touchdowns, and receptions he's tied for 24th in the league. That's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's interesting that he's not, for a guy who's broken out as much as he has, doesn't have more receptions or more targets. I think that'll change as his time goes on. But I wouldn't expect for him to finish the year second in yards and 4th in touchdowns. I think that's a lot to ask out of Jamar Chase. And if his production declines a little bit, then I think this team starts to get a little bit worse and worse because he's obviously been a huge reason why this team's 5-2 right now. So
yeah, and I mean, yeah, I would agree. The yards, they have to not be as consistent the rest of the season, only because through 7 games he's at 754. I mean, times that by 2, that's only 14 games. That's 1,500 yards, and then add it probably another 250 onto that. So, like, you're saying he's going to end up with, like, 16 or, like, 1,700 yards for a rookie? I mean, maybe, possibly. I don't know. You have the extra game, but, I mean, that's a lot of yards. So, yeah, I probably agree. Like, defenses are going to lock in on him in the future. And, again, they still have Boyd and Higgins. They still have a good receiving core for sure. So we'll see how much that stunts them on offense going forward. When teams definitely maybe send a safety over the top or at least are more concerned with him on one side of the field than they have been so far. But we'll see. I mean, look, he is for sure Offensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, again, right now, it easily could change. He can get injured, which, we're not hoping for anything, but he can get injured. He could slow down. Something happens. Pitts goes crazy. I mean, Pitts is having a really good year. We both picked him in our award predictions, but Chase is just having an insane year right now. So, again, it's hard not to pick him, but it's only been 7 games, like we said. But we'll see if he keeps it up. I mean, yeah, I'd probably be surprised as well, but I guess we'll see the rest of the season. And, again, we'll see how much that hurts the Bengals going forward on their offense.
Yeah, a couple more games that happened, last week that we don't have to spend much time on, but, I guess last night's game, Saints at Seahawks, probably just the worst game I think I've ever watched.
We have to talk about that game?
No, I'm just probably the worst game I've ever seen in my life.
Well, can we just say, let's say Wilson comes back in 2 weeks, and the Seahawks in the next 2 weeks play Jaguars, Packers. Actually, they have a bye, so they play Jaguars and bye. Let's say they're 3-5, and Wilson comes back. Do you still view this team as a playoff team?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I'm at the same juncture that you are.
The NFC is still really competitive. You just lost to the Saints, who are going to be going for that wild card spot, and the Saints are awful too.
Yeah.
I don't like the Saints either. They're 4-2 though, so they have room to lose games. Do I like the Saints as a wild card team either? No, but yeah, I just think 2-5 is too deep of a hole that you've dug yourself in, and had you had won last night's game and you'd be able to get to 3-4 and then maybe to 4-4 because of the Jaguars and then behind the Packers, and maybe you can, that's Russell Wilson's first game back. Maybe he's if you're at least competitive in that game, I like your chances, but you're more than likely going to be 3-5 than 3-6.
Yeah.
And then that's just you pretty much have to win out at that point. Especially
exactly.
with already a loss to the Saints. And yeah, I think the Seahawks are done. I will say my Super Bowl pick are those teams are combined 5-9 right now.
Nice.
So yeah.
But yeah, the Seahawks, right now they're tied with the Giants, Eagles, and Washington for record-wise. But yeah, these last 2 weeks have killed them because the Saints, like you said, that's a team that's pretty comparable to them, but in a wild card situation, you need a win over them anyways, and they couldn't get it. And then the week before against the Steelers, again, a team in the other conference that is very comparable to you that you needed a win over, and you just couldn't get it. So if they were to win these last 2 games, for sure. I mean, when Wilson comes back, you're thinking you're at the worst 500 if you were to come back. But again, you play the Jaguars, so you're probably thinking you win that game as well. And then he's coming back after a bye week. Again, we don't know if that's going to happen, but let's say it does. Yeah, you're looking way better. But the way it is right now, yeah, they're probably done. It's just, they have to win against the Jaguars, and they basically have to win against the Packers, which is going to be a tough game. So it's looking really tough for them, and definitely a surprise. Again, also it's mostly due to the injury of Wilson, but they really weren't playing that great when he was healthy anyways. So
the schema hasn't looked great. The argument for thinking Russell Wilson and the Seahawks are a playoff team would be, had Russell Wilson not gotten hurt, this team is above 500 right now most likely because you'd probably have won the last 2 games.
Yeah.
But obviously he's not, and just the reality of it is that considering you're not going to win your division, you have to get in through wild card, and you already lost to the Saints and the other 2 teams vying for wild card spots in your division, and those are, it's on top of other teams as well. It's a really competitive NFC for the wild card spots. I think they're done, but we'll see. Other than that, really not much. I mean, the Dolphins-Falcons game was very competitive towards the end, but ultimately 2 teams that just aren't good at all. Patriots dropped 54 on the Jets. That was interesting.
Probably the biggest story from the Falcons-Dolphins game is Tua going to be the quarterback in the next 2 weeks?
I don't know.
Because the Watson rumors were before that game were pretty heated, and then after the game, again, they lost another heartbreaker. Not even heartbreaker, just a terrible game that they lost against a bad team that was trying to give the game away. It's crazy how the Falcons always try to give the game away. And the Dolphins still couldn't win the game. Tua wasn't amazing in this game, to be honest. He threw 4 touchdowns with 2 picks, and again, they were coming back almost the whole game. But yeah, it looks like Watson to the Dolphins isn't done, but it looks. I think I heard someone say it's more when and not if at this point. So, again, he has the no trade clause, so he can decide when he wants to get traded, and then we'll see what happens after that. But it seems like Tua's just done in Miami, and I don't even think Houston would accept him in a deal. I think they were saying a 3rd team possibly. So I don't know where he goes for the rest of his career, to be honest.
I've heard that maybe he gets sent to Washington. But even if they do trade for Watson, I don't know when Watson exactly comes back.
Yeah, they were saying he may go on the commissioner's exempt list because technically they can't put him on right now because the Texans are paying him not to play. But if he were to get traded, then they would have to take action on that.
Yeah, I don't think he plays this season.
Yeah, which I mean, that's probably see, the bad thing for the Dolphins is that they're not a good team. And let's say they trade Tua, they get Watson, he can't play for the rest of the season, but he's eligible next season. The thing is they don't have their 1st round pick, so it's like I still see the point in doing the trade for sure because you're getting a way better. You're getting a top 5 quarterback, arguably, in Watson. With already a contract done anyways. But you don't have your 1st round pick next year, and you're probably going to end up with 4 wins at most this season. I mean, at most 4 wins. So you're probably picking top 5 no matter what. But again, you're not even picking top 5 because you don't have your 1st round pick. So it's like, where does this team even go for the future? Because your roster really isn't that good.
There's a very solid argument to be made, in my opinion, that you do not trade for Deshaun Watson for the Dolphins, solely because if you trade for Watson, you're probably not going to have your first-round pick for the next 3 or 4 years, probably.
I don't know. I don't know how much they're going to have to give up to get him at this point.
I still think a solid amount. Because I still think, even though, listen, with everything that's going on off the field, the fact that he hasn't played in essentially a year, the teams know that the Texans are, kind of almost have to trade Watson. I still think if it wasn't the Dolphins, there'd be teams willing to go out there and trade a hefty amount for Watson. So I still think you have to give up a lot. I still think it's at least 2 firsts, and then you start talking about maybe some mid-round picks in there, maybe a couple veterans or something. So I still think you have to give up a lot. If I'm the Dolphins, I don't know what's worth it, because even if you get Watson, you have Watson, Fuller, Waddle, Parker. You have Fuller for a year, and then other than that, though, your defense has not looked good at all. You've lost a lot of your key guys, and Xavier Howard has not been what he was previously, and I know he's a very inconsistent corner. He's one of those kind of Trayvon Digg type playmaker corners. I'm not sold that the Dolphins should make the move for Watson. If it's not for a lot, then sure, but if you're having to give up multiple firsts, then I don't know what you would really do, because even if you land Watson, you have a top 5 quarterback, but nothing around him. And I think we know that you cannot win a Super Bowl with that. So,
yeah. And I mean, maybe they're thinking that, they can fix that defense a little bit. It hasn't been as good as it was last year. And again, the offense, I mean, if you plug Watson into that offense, it will be better than what Tua is right now, because he's just a way better quarterback. But they still have a lot of concerns in other places, like we were saying. And again, in that division, it's definitely a tough division anyways. So we have to see. And again, if you weren't to play football for an entire year, that has an effect on you. Not just because you're injured. It's different when you're injured because you have to rehab and everything. But when you're just not playing football at all and you're holding out, and we saw with, even though it's a different position in running back, it clearly affects you. And it could affect him. And maybe it helps him because he's quarterback, he's not getting hit. But it could easily affect them a lot. We'll have to see how that plays out. But, again, it's not just Dolphins. They were saying maybe Panthers. Obviously the Darnold situation right now isn't looking great. I don't know. I don't know. I guess the Panthers, I mean, obviously they could use Watson, but we'll have to see. I don't think they're good enough to get Watson and then be the team that they thought they could have been. But yeah, it's not just Dolphins, but we'll see. Again, the news from today was that they're still talking to teams about it. And again, the trade deadline is November 2nd, so they have basically a week to do that. And we'll see if he gets traded this year. Do you think he gets traded before the deadline, or do you think it just waits till next season?
I don't think he gets traded. I don't know. I could be wrong, but if you made me guess, I would say no. And if I'm the Dolphins, I'm not trading for Watson, honestly. And when you do consider trading for somebody like Watson, you do have to consider how good of a quarterback he is. Obviously, he's a great quarterback, but do you think he's closer to being number 1 quarterback, like Mahomes type, or do you think he's closer to being kind of that 9th best quarterback? We'll say closer to that, maybe before Dak Prescott took this leap this year type quarterback.
No, I think he's will I ever think he'll be the best quarterback in the league? No, but I think he's closer to 1 than he is to the bottom of the 10.
I would disagree.
If you look at his numbers last year, and I had him in fantasy last year, he was ridiculous for a team that literally had no weapons. They traded Hopkins. Their Fuller was there, but then he got injured. Then he got suspended. They had Randall Cobb last year, but that's supposed to be your best receiver when he's a number 3, potentially. They had no running game last year. Obviously, their team was terrible. He had an insane year last year. I think he is, maybe with Allen's and Dak's, their leaps they've taken the last 2 years. Maybe he's not top 5 right now if he were to play, but I think he's 6 or 7 right now. And if you were to give him more playing time, obviously let him play, he'd be top 5. And then when a Brady or Rodgers would retire, then he'd easily move into that top 5. So, his year last year, 70% completion percentage, 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 picks. I mean, that's just a ridiculous stat line right there. And again, it only led to 4 wins, but that wasn't his fault. I mean, the team was just terrible, and it was also coached by Bill O'Brien for the first however many games that was. So he was crazy last year. He also had a couple rushing touchdowns as well. So, and he got sacked 50 times last year. So he had no favors last year, and he still had arguably an MVP season.
I'm not going to tell you he's a bad quarterback. I think he's a great quarterback, and you're probably right about the thing. Eventually he'll be top 5, but you're still going to be paying him a fortune. You don't kind of get that 5-year gap where you don't really get to pay him anything, kind of like, like any rookie quarterback gets on their rookie contract, where you kind of have that, what Mahomes had, what Russell Wilson had, that kind of luxury of just being able to have an elite roster around you because you're paying the quarterback nothing. I guess what I'm saying is maybe he's not closer to 9 than he is to 1, but I think he's closer to Prescott than he is to Mahomes. And when I say that, it's not an insult necessarily. It's just that Mahomes is a guy that I can trade for, and even with like garbage around him, you're still a playoff team, probably. With a guy like Prescott or Watson, I still think if you have nothing around him, you're still looking at like a 5-12 or 6-11 year, which isn't bad, obviously, because you have nothing around you. But I'm just
the one thing I'll say in that is, Mahomes. We see it this year. They're 3-4, and he has basically the same team as last year in the 3-4. So I'm not saying Mahomes is a bad quarterback, and obviously if you were to put him on just about any team, yeah, they'd be competitive. But we're seeing with the roster that the Chiefs have that they're 3-4. So. It's not
off to a bad start.
No, but it's not totally. Again, if you were to do that with like a Dak or another top quarterback, but isn't like a top quarterback, yeah, they probably would be worse. Because I don't think obviously Dak, like even though I love him, like he's obviously not the type of quarterback that Mahomes is. He does need a lot of things around him for sure. But we're seeing again, like I said, with Mahomes, that even if you do have everything, it's still not going to work out. And if you were to put Mahomes on the Texans last year, I think they'd be pretty similar to 4-12.
I don't agree because, and the reason the Chiefs haven't been great, obviously we've talked about a lot of the reasons the Chiefs haven't been great, but Mahomes has not been a top probably 10 quarterback this year. He's just made a lot of dumb mistakes, and they look dumb and they are dumb, and a lot of turnovers. If he's been playing this year like he was in his like 2018 MVP year, or really any time other than he's been playing now, I think this Chiefs team is probably at least 5-2. Even though the defense is awful. And listen, Mahomes, even though he's had an elite offense around him, he's never had a great defense around him. So I still think even if you give Mahomes, what the Texans were last year, 9 times out of 10, and at least what we've seen from him so far other than this year, I still think that's a very competitive team. More competitive than you would with, Watson or Prescott, obviously. I
don't know. I like somewhat agree and also disagree at the same time. I don't see, if you were to switch places with them last year where Watson's on the Chiefs and Mahomes is on the Texans, I think that it still ends up pretty similar for both teams, to be honest.
I'm not sure the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl.
I think it's very possible because, again, Watson isn't as good as Mahomes, but he's right there as being talent-wise with Mahomes. I think that we've kind of maybe forgotten it a little bit, obviously, with him just not playing and all the stuff that's happened. But I think it's very close. Now, no one's going to be on Mahomes' level, but I think Watson is right there for being like as close as possible to talent-wise. I think they're just very similar in that aspect. And, again, maybe they wouldn't reach the Super Bowl. Maybe they wouldn't be as good in the regular season. But I think it'd be very, very close, and I think it'd still be like, you could be like, yeah, Watson's on the team. Like, it's really not that much of a drop-off. Like, it's just not. Like, we're basically just the same team. It maybe just be a little bit less, but not that much.
I mean, I think that little bit is the difference between making the Super Bowl and not, though, because it was an uphill battle to get to the Super Bowl last year. I mean, the Bills were not a joke of an AFC conference championship team by any means. So I don't know, but I guess going back to what we were talking about initially, I think it's very tough to argue for the Dolphins to make that trade, just because what we've seen is the best time to win Super Bowls is that 5-year gap where you're not paying the quarterback anything. He's playing at a really high level, maybe not his peak prime, but he's playing at a really high level, and you have a lot around that quarterback to guide him to a Super Bowl. If you trade for Watson, obviously, yes, you're happy because you have a top 5 quarterback in the league when healthy and in his prime. But you don't have that money, and you don't have the draft picks either to put anything around him. That's what really worries me.
Yeah, it definitely is a worry for sure. But just contract-wise, I mean, his average salary is $39 million, but if you look at it per year, it's $35 next year, $20 the next, and then $32 in 2024 and 2025. Then he's a free agent. By that time, that's not that much money for a quarterback, especially someone of his skill set. Now maybe you'd get a contract extension. I mean, obviously that's a possibility, and it probably would happen if he were to come back and still be the same Watson. But just looking at those numbers, it's really not that much compared to what guys are making and then will make in the next 3 years. So I don't see the contract as that big of a difference maker in them making a deal or not making a deal. Now, would they win a Super Bowl? If you had a contract or didn't have a contract, just the way the Dolphins are right now and their draft status and just the team that they have, probably not anyways. But I don't think that should deter you from trading from him if that's one of the main reasons why you don't want him.
Is it the most expensive contract in the world? No, but listen, compared to what Mahomes was making in his rookie years, I mean, that's a $30 million difference per year. So that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see what happens.
That's like a top tier wide receiver plus a really good linebacker. That's like what you're missing out on essentially.
But we'll see what happens with the Chiefs in the next 3 years, because again, Mahomes is making $45 million this year. So his obviously his $500 million contract is kicking in. We'll see how good they'll be in the next 3 years, because you know what, they probably won't be anywhere close to as good as they've been the last couple of years, because they just can't pay everyone. Kelsey's getting older. Are you going to pay Hill like a huge contract? That defense, you don't have many great pieces, and the pieces you do, Matthew's older, and then you have like a Jones and a Ford or whatever, but or a Clark, I should say. Are you willing to pay all these guys crazy amounts of money? Can you? Or do you have to go a year or two without paying people to then save up for having a huge salary cap year? They have so many questions as well. So we'll see how good they are in the next 3 years, because they could easily be. They could easily be a 500 team though, even though you still have Mahomes, because you just don't have a roster around them. That's clearly an option.
Unless I agree with what you're saying. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be as good as they've been, but.
Because Brady never made this amount of money,
No, but the salary cap has also gone up.
Yeah, but it's never going to be so far up to where $45 million per year doesn't mean anything for one guy.
It's going to mean a lot. What I'm saying is Mahomes has really never had an elite defense around him, so he's not really experiencing anything crazily different this year. Obviously, the defense got off to an awful start and they're not as good as they probably were before, but. The bottom line, the reason the Chiefs are not 5-2 right now is because of Mahomes. And I'm not saying that the defense is not to blame or anything. I'm just, if Mahomes had been playing like he has, the past 3 years or whatever, this team would probably be 5-2 and looking like a top tier AFC team. But yeah, no, I don't disagree that this Chiefs team is going to struggle. And I do think some people, maybe even myself included, kind of prematurely called them, the next dynasty, kind of like the Seahawks were supposed to be the next dynasty. This Chiefs team was kind of looking like it was going to be that. Obviously, right now, it's not exactly looking like that. Only one Super Bowl so far. Mahomes' money is kicking in. Andy Reid's only getting older. At some point, he's going to be gone. Like you were saying about Kelsey and Hill, you're going to have to start finding the new guys. But we'll see what happens with the Chiefs. Interesting. So
yeah.
But I guess we'll just get into our predictions, which we somehow have not gotten into yet. I'll go first. So what we're doing, so this recording's on Tuesday, you'll probably see it Wednesday. Typically you see recordings on Friday, anywhere Thursday, Friday, Saturday, typically. There's an exciting Thursday night, if you want to call it exciting Thursday night game this week, which is why we're recording a bit early. Packers at Cardinals. We've decided to both take this game since we're kind of recording early, so then you guys can see this before the game comes out or starts or whatever. I'll start with my prediction. It's the Cardinals are favored by 6, and I'm taking Green Bay. I know Adams is not playing in this game. I know the Packers haven't necessarily looked great, even though their record is pretty solid. They haven't demonstrated complete dominance. They haven't looked exactly like they, were like an NFC championship team the last 4 years or whatever. but I still think Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback in this matchup. I still think LaFleur is probably a better coach than Kingsbury, by at least a little bit. And I frankly, even though the Cardinals are 7-0 right now, they haven't looked like a super great 7-0 team. They still have shown inconsistencies. Keep in mind that they were pretty much even with the Texans over the first, 1.5 quarters, I want to say. And I'm not saying they're, that bad. This team is not like a top tier team without a doubt. I think they're due for a loss. I think they're due for a down week. And I think 6 points is a lot to give up. And Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback. LaFleur is the better coach. 6 points, I'll take it. I'm not saying the Packers are going to win this game, but I think it'll be closer than 6. So,
yeah, I agree with what you said about the Cardinals and that. Yeah, they're 7-0, but they're not even ranked as the best team in the NFC. Like, the Rams, the Bucks, and the Cowboys are most likely above them. I think most people would agree with that, but I think they're due for a loss. I just think it happens next week when they play the Niners in San Fran. Now, it's not like the Niners are a good team, like a great team or anything. I just think that's when the loss happens. I think they win this game. I took a -6, so yeah, I mean, they have to win the game, obviously. But just not having Adams definitely hurts. Now, if Adams was playing this game and we were deciding on taking this game, the line definitely would have been, I don't know what the line was before the whole Adams thing happened. I would assume it's probably maybe it was 4.
I think it was 3.5.
3.5?
I think it was 3.5.
I was most likely going to take, I didn't even know what the line was, but I was still probably going to take the Packers. I don't know if they would have won the game, but I probably would have taken them. But just no Adams. It's just like he has so much other offense, and it's not like Aaron Jones has been that good so far this year. He has 89 carries for 404 yards. I mean, that's not that good, especially for a guy you just paid decently big money to at your running back position. And then you look at their other receivers, like who else scares you against a pretty, not the best secondary in Arizona, so you don't have to worry about arguably the best receiver in the league to go against. I think it just helps the defense out of the Cardinals way more. I think they can now attack Rodgers on their pass rush more. Chandler Jones came back for their game against the Texans, so he has another week of being back from the COVID list. On the defensive line, obviously they have J.J. Watt as well. So I just think that they're going to be able to do more things defensively than they would have if Adams was playing. I think it just hurts the Packers. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Rodgers has an insane day. He's just their offense. He's doing everything. That's completely possible. But the way that they've been playing, they've been letting bad teams hang with them, not putting away teams like a 6-1 team probably should be. I just see the Cardinals winning this game. And yeah, I don't know. I just think the Cardinals win this game. That's all I want to say.
Interesting. I honestly think these teams are really close. Obviously, I know the Cardinals have the better record, but if you take out week 1, they have the same record, obviously. I know you don't do that.
Yeah.
They've technically both won, their last 6 games. So, and I don't think either have won them like necessarily super, impressively. Maybe the Cardinals have been more impressive than the Packers for sure, but like we were saying, the Cardinals have not been, they're closer to the Steelers of last year than they are to whatever Chiefs team or Patriots team started out 7-0.
The Cardinals have had a couple good wins. I mean, week 1, Titans, they blew them out. They blew out the Rams. I mean, even though it was only 37-20, that was a blowout.
It was.
And then even the Browns game, and the Browns, that's the game where almost everyone got injured, but they still won 37-14. Even if those guys were healthy, the Cardinals were winning that game. So they have had more impressive wins. Now, obviously, I do agree. They've let some teams hang in, like the Vikings. They barely beat. Even the Jaguars was a close game. The Niners only won 17-10 against Lance in his first start. So, yeah, I for sure agree. But I have a little more confidence in the Cardinals right now than I do the Packers. Maybe that changes at the end of the season, but right now that's the way I feel.
Sure. Okay, so I want to get into my second prediction here. This is a game that we both picked as well. Dolphins at Bills. I actually forgot to say I'm actually very confident in my games this week. If I could add a 6th game in, I would. I don't know if I would, but out of all the weeks, this would be a week where I would want to add a 6th game in because I was gonna pick Indy plus 1.5, but they couldn't fit in. I couldn't fit them into my top 5 games. So
I don't know. I feel like more confident than last week, but maybe not super confident. Like it seems like the way you're feeling.
I I'll be disappointed if I finish 3-2 or worse.
Okay.
So I think I can go 4-1 this week. With that being said, Dolphins at Bills. Bills are favored by 13.5, and I'm going with Buffalo. Listen, the Dolphins are they're awful. Tua's gonna play, I'm assuming. I don't think it matters who they play. This offense is not that great. The defense is not very good, and the Bills have, not shown mercy against a lot of teams this year. And I think they blow out the Dolphins again. So yeah.
Yeah, Bills are coming off a bye. Dolphins obviously had that bad game against the Falcons. They have to travel up to Buffalo. We'll see what the weather looks like as well. It's going to be Halloween. I'm assuming it's going to be cold, maybe snowy, maybe rainy. Who knows? Whatever it is, it's not going to help the Dolphins. It wouldn't matter anyways. But yeah, 13.5. It's just the line. Like obviously, like the Bills will win this game. It's just like, are they going to blow them out? Will it be close? And will they maybe pull away towards the end? Will the Dolphins get a late cover? Whatever. But yeah, I'm putting my faith in the Bills. Just blowing them out. I mean, they should. They're such a better team than the Dolphins. They already blew them out this year earlier. In Miami.
35-0, I want to say.
Yeah. 35-0 in Miami. So it was they're playing a worse team this upcoming week than they played that week, which was week 2. And
the Dolphins were coming off a win in New England against Mac Jones. So yeah.
And the Bills were on the road that week, so it should be lined up for a 20+ point victory in my head.
That's the game, honestly. Other than Packers Cardinals, because we have we're both picking that game. Other than that game, this is the game I'm least confident in this week, and I'm still pretty confident in the Bills winning by more than 13.
This game, I'm pretty confident in this game, to be honest. I have 3 games that I'm confident in that should be wins, and I'll be happy if I'm 3-2 because I think I should be 3-2 for this week. I'll be upset if I'm not.
I think I should be 4-1, and honestly, the Bills game. Listen, I'm confident in it, but it's not even the game that I'm the most confident. I'm the second least confident in this game. Okay. I'll go my third game here. 49ers at Bears. San Fran is 3-point favorites on the road, and I'm going with San Francisco. San Fran is due for a win. Obviously, they lost last week, or I guess a couple nights ago, against the Colts, in a game that I don't know that they should have won that game necessarily, but it was a game that was clearly impacted by weather. It was raining the whole day or the whole night. I think the 49ers come out and they travel to Chicago and they get a win. Jimmy G should be able to rebound. This team should be able to rebound. And frankly, the Bears are not good. I was kind of surprised that the Bears were favored, and I know it's hard to favor the Niners because they're 2-4 right now. So it's hard to favor a 2-4 team against the Bears, who have not been great, but they've at least been competent most weeks. But the Bears are coming off a really bad loss to the Buccaneers, and I think the 49ers are frankly just the better team. So yeah, I'll take them win by more than 3.
Yeah, that one I looked at. Honestly, I could really see the Bears winning that game, and I don't know why I could see that because the Bears are terrible.
If the Bears do win, the 49ers are out of the playoff race to me.
Oh, well, yeah, for sure. I mean, 2-5 they for sure would be, but just losing to the Bears, yeah. But for some reason, I see them winning, and maybe not even winning, but just playing a tough game. I mean, they got blown out against the Bucs. I mean, that was so obvious, but the Niners really aren't that good of a team, to be honest, but we'll see. But for my third game, I picked Bengals at Jets. The line was -10 for the Bengals. This seems like easy money. I mean, the Jets, Wilson's out. Even if he played, I don't think it would matter. But they're playing Mike White, former Cowboy quarterback, who he definitely didn't look bad against the Patriots. But at that point, when you're getting blown out, you're throwing the ball. It's kind of easier. It's way easier to move the ball at that point because obviously the defense isn't really caring as much, to be honest. So we'll see how he is. I mean, the Jets are at home, but I don't think that matters at all, to be honest. Even though I don't think the Bengals are like this world beater. If they were just to blow out the Ravens like that, maybe they come down to earth a little bit, but they should still be able to win by more than 10 points against the Jets. I think it's almost a shame if they don't. There's no way they shouldn't put up 30+ points in this game, and there's no way the Jets should score over 20 points. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it.
I know the Jets just came off, 54-10. Beating or whatever, but
14, I think it was.
54 to something, 13 maybe.
13.
This team still fights. I mean, other than last week, they're still a competitive team. They beat the Titans. When the Titans are a top team, I think 10's a lot. It's if I was to pick this game, I would go Bengals, but it's a game that I looked at, but I wasn't very.
I mean, if the Jets continue this trend of not scoring in the first quarter, I mean.
Yeah, and I will say about the Wilson thing, there's an argument to be made that, and you kind of talked about it, but there's an argument to be made that they're not downgrading a quarterback right now.
I mean, we'll see what White looks like when he's starting the game, and the offense is like. We'll see what changes compared to last week. And a 0-0 game, you're starting with 15 minutes, on the clock. We'll see if that matters because again, this will be his first career start. So maybe he plays terribly, maybe he plays pretty good. I mean, they were able to move the ball, but they are always a better second half team than a first half team. So maybe it would have been the same if Wilson was still playing for that second half. Maybe they would have been able to move the ball. But you're right, they did have like a 5-possession stretch where they at least got into field goal range. Now, I think they turned it on downs. They had a couple turnovers, and I think they did score a touchdown and kick a field goal. But they were moving the ball better than they were with Wilson, for sure.
Yeah. My third game, and I don't like to bet on, or I don't like to pick this team, but I'm picking them this week. Steelers at Browns. Browns are 3.5-point favorites at home. I'm going to go with Cleveland. I don't think Baker has to be healthy. He could just not play. I don't care. I just think the Browns on paper are a better team in general. It hasn't really clicked and they haven't looked great, but I think this Browns team is due for, listen, I don't love this Browns team, but I still think they are the second best team in the division, and I think they're bound to start picking it up at some point. And the Steelers team, the Steelers are just not good. Big Ben, obviously. Juju's out for the year. Their receiving core is all right, I guess, but they're just not a good team offensively. Defensively, they're all right. They're decent. They're good, but they're not a defense that's going to just carry you magically to wins. I still think this Browns team can run the ball on pretty much anybody they want to. So, yeah, I'll pick the Browns to win by more than 3.5. Yeah. It really comes down to me that I just think the Browns are a better team, and I think the Browns will win, and odds are when you win a game, it's probably by more than 3.5. It could be closer, we'll see, but it's not enough points for me to give up on the Browns in this one. I'm pretty confident the Browns are going to win by more than 3.5.
Yeah, again, another one I was looking at, but just wanted to stay away. I'm pretty sure Baker's playing, and we'll see about Chubb or Hunt, but or isn't. I think Hunt's on IR, right?
I think Hunt's done for the year, right? Or no?
Oh, I think he's at least on IR, I think, which is a minimum of 3 games. But yeah, he might be. But we'll see. I mean, again, I just want to stay away from that game. But for my next game, my fourth game, I'm Patriots at Chargers. Line was 5.5 for the Chargers. I took the Chargers in this one. Coming off a bye week after that terrible loss against the Ravens, I think they have a week to kind of step back, reflect, go all out on a Patriots team that obviously had the huge win against the Jets, so obviously riding a high there, coming off a low against the Cowboys in a tough game. So we'll see how they also have to travel all the way to the West Coast. I think it maybe just affects a little bit. I think it matters a little bit. But I think the one thing that would stop this pick from working, again, this is one of the games I'm not as confident in because of this reason, is the run game. The Chargers have one of the worst run defense, if not the worst run defense in the league. And again, the Patriots the last couple of weeks have been able to run the ball. Harris has looked really good the last couple of weeks. He's had multiple touchdowns. He's had over 100-yard games. So if they can do that, and that's working, and that's really working in this game, I think it could seriously affect it. But I just think the Chargers are the better team. Again, coming off the bye, having a week to really attack this defense, I think is going to matter. And yeah, I think 5.5. It may be tough to cover, but I think they should be able to do it against the Patriots.
Yeah, this is one of the weeks I'm staying away from a Patriots game. I just think there's a lot of variables. The Patriots are traveling across the country, but with that being said, they are essentially playing a home game against the Chargers. So, how does that factor? I don't know. The Chargers are coming off a bye. How does that factor in? I'm not too sure. It really depends on how good of a coach Joe Staley is or how good you think he is. I don't know how good. Sorry. Oh, yeah. I'm thinking about the
offensive tackle?
Yeah. Brandon Staley. Obviously, Joe Staley is a pretty good tackle, or was at least. Is he even still in the league?
He retired a couple years ago.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I was tempted to kind of take this game, but honestly, I wasn't sure which way I'd go because, I don't know. I just think this game could go either way. I think 5.5 is a lot for a team that's essentially playing an away game. I know they're playing a home game. Maybe you just count this as a neutral field, essentially, for the Chargers. I don't know what you would, if when you're making the spread that is. I don't know. It was a game that I wasn't confident in, though, so... my last game is a game that you're going to be watching upstairs. Cowboys at Vikings. Dallas are 2.5-point favorites on the road, and I'm taking Dallas. Listen, the Vikings haven't been bad necessarily, but I think this should be Mike Zimmer's last year as a coach of the Vikings. And this isn't necessarily too related to the game, but no matter what happens this year, this team is just never, even at their peak, has never been good enough to get to the Super Bowl. You really should have beaten that Eagles team. I know they were just magical that year, but that, out of all the NFC Championship matchups, that's a game you should have won. Even though I know you have Case Keenum, you get Kirk Cousins, but really it just hasn't added up. This team's been pretty mediocre. At their peaks, they've been able to win a wild card game, and at their floors, they've kind of been like a 7-9 type of team. So I don't know where you go from here, but I think the Cowboys are just the better team. I just think on paper, the defense has been a very solid defense, able to make a lot of plays. Who knows if Trayvon Diggs keeps up the interceptions. Offensively, though, the Cowboys, listen, Dak's a top 7 quarterback, if not higher. Zeke, other than against the Patriots, looks like a top 5 running back, coming off a bye as well. I just think everything lines up for the Cowboys to win this game, and I think they'll win by more than 2.5.
Yeah, I stayed away from this game. I didn't pick this for my last game. The Vikings are always tough because that offense that they have, and again, Minnesota is home as well. But the offense, they have 2 really good receivers and a really good running back, along with a quarterback that is still a good quarterback. He can move the ball, he can throw the ball downfield, may make a dumb mistake or whatever, but he still is one of the better quarterbacks. In the top half of the league. So I think they're going to be able to move the ball. I think this game's going to be a shootout, in my opinion. And the last 2 times we've played the Vikings, both in Minnesota, which is kind of weird, but they've been close games. One with Dak, one without Dak, but they've been close games, and we'll see. I think that we'll see how Dak feels with the calf. I know I don't think he's going to practice this week, but he is at least not in the walking boot, so I think that does help. It's not like a serious injury, but I just wanted to stay away. It was honestly too close of a game, but I probably will be watching that game downstairs. I don't know if I'll be upstairs for that one, but
really, why?
Well, not prime time. I don't know. It's just like
interesting.
It's like easier to watch. If a Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, I'll probably watch downstairs. Like for like a 4 o'clock, 1 o'clock though, like I'd rather just watch in my room because like the other games will be on.
Well,
unless we're playing like the Patriots or something.
For our thousands of viewers, explain your like Cowboys watching, not ritual, but just explain kind of
like
how you
when I
go
watch
about
upstairs.
Yeah, explain. Explain like so. We've said Brandon watches his games upstairs in his room. Just explain like why that is.
Well, I like to focus. I think there's I don't know. I take it very seriously, so I want to focus. I want to be able to have the reactions I want to have. If something deems that reaction, so I think it matters to watch upstairs. For the primetime games, I think it's just easier to watch it like a Sunday night, Monday night, like I was saying, like easier to watch downstairs because it's like whatever. I think it's just easier. But like the 4 o'clock, the 1 o'clocks, if like the Patriots game last week, if I wasn't home, or 2 weeks ago, if I wasn't home, I would have watched that downstairs because my roommate's a Patriots fan, so it's been fun to have that aspect of it. But whatever, I'll watch it downstairs. I think it'll be fine. Maybe if they're losing, I'll go upstairs or something. But if they're getting like blown out, I'll probably go upstairs. But I don't expect that to happen. But for my last game though. I talked about it earlier, like right at the beginning of it. I'm sticking with the Chiefs. They're playing the Giants at home. The line is 10. Monday Night Football. I said last week was the game. We both said it, but I said it that was the game I thought they were going to break out. This has to be the breakout game, at least somewhat of a breakout game. Just like win, play good football, no turnovers, good defense, play team football. Mahomes has a good game. Hill is a monster game. Like Hill or Kelsey is a monster game. Like they just do what we've known the Chiefs to do the last 3 years. You're playing a really bad team in the Giants who played one of the worst games ever against the Panthers. They won, but it was just a really bad game from both sides, obviously. At home, it's probably going to be cold. It's going to be snowy. Maybe not snowy, but it's going to be cold in Arrowhead on a Monday night like that. I don't know. I just see the Chiefs. This should be the game. If they, like you said, if this is a close game, even if they cover, but it's like 11 points or whatever, it's just close throughout. it's going to be really concerning for the rest of the season for the Chiefs. But I just see them blowing them out. I would be very surprised if they don't. And I know I've said it the last couple of weeks, but it has to happen, right? I mean, it has to. So
I feel like I'm biased towards the Chiefs, and listening to you's already kind of made me want to pick the Chiefs somehow, but I can't. I have to tell myself that I can't right now. So
yeah, and like I said, if this doesn't work out, or again, even if they do cover, but it's barely, I don't know. It has to be like the perfect matchup for me to pick the Chiefs again, because it's going to be tough. I mean, I feel like in years past, it was almost a guarantee that if you were picking the Chiefs, they're probably going to win you that matchup. So this is a big test for them as well, just in our prediction matchup thing. So we'll see, but. That was all 5 of our predictions. Like we said, just to restate the records for so far this season, Drew is 17-16-2, and I'm 24-10-1. So a 6.5 game advantage, basically, in my favor.
Yeah. You want to know the last time neither of us had the Chiefs in our predictions? It was week 2.
Week 2.
Since week 2...
I think I picked the Chiefs every week.
Yeah, so since week 2...
Or at least one of us have.
Yeah, since week 2, at least one of us has picked the Chiefs.
Yeah, and
week 3 I did. I think week 4 you did. Week 4 we both did.
I picked the Chiefs 4 weeks in a row. Now 5 weeks, counting this one.
Listen, it's not a, they're a really consistent team historically. This year obviously has not been the case, but even without Mahomes, they were really consistent, especially early in the year. So it's interesting, but yeah, that's pretty much it for NFL. Quick MLB minute.
Yeah.
World Series starts tonight. You'll probably see this, I'm assuming, after Game 1. Maybe you see it before Game 1. We'll see. But, predictions?
Yeah. So, I guess just to see the teams, it's the Braves and the Astros. I don't think we've recorded since the Dodgers lost to the Braves. Yeah. So, just quickly on that. Definitely surprising. I mean, not to go Scherzer in that game. He was, basically full rest in that game. But they went with Buehler on short rest. That was a weird decision.
I think that was up to Scherzer.
Well, yeah, they said he had somewhat of a dead arm, but honestly, at that point, I think you just go with Scherzer. If he gives you 3 innings, he gives you 3 innings. But I think it's better than going with Buehler on short rest when you could have had him basically full rest for Game 7 if you win. So I don't know. But the Dodgers shouldn't have won that series. They didn't deserve to win that series, so I don't look at that as the main decision as to why they didn't win. But yeah, the Braves won. They're in against the Astros. I think the Astros are the better team. The Braves have had kind of this magic around them. Again, they're not that good of a team, just the way that they finished, their regular season. But the playoffs, they've been really good. But I still view the Astros as the better team. I think that, the Astros pitching has to do what it did in the last couple games of the Red Sox series. But that offense is ridiculous for them. They've been in this spot before. The Braves haven't. And I think that matters a little bit. And again, the Astros have home field advantage. So they're going to have games of 6 and 7 at home. They have game 6 and 7 at home. That's the way the World Series works. So, I'm gonna go Astros in 6 for this series, like I did the last series for them.
I'm gonna go Astros in. I'm gonna go Astros in 7. I think the Astros are a better team too. I think their lineup is better. Starting pitching, the Braves have the better rotation probably.
Not by much, though.
Yeah, it's not like we're not talking a significant gap. I think the gap in lineups is bigger than the gap in pitching for the Astros. I don't know if you agree or disagree on that, but
that the Astros lineup is so much.
I think the Astros lineup there's a bigger gap between the Astros lineup and Braves lineup than there is between the Braves pitching and the Astros pitching, aka the Astros are.
Yeah, I would probably agree because the depth that the Astros have offensively is better than the depth that the Braves have. I would say.
I would agree.
So I would agree with that.
But I think it's a close series. I don't think either of these teams are like super crazy insane teams on paper. I think the Astros are closer to that, but I'm not even sure on paper the Astros are the best team in their conference, and I know for sure on paper the Braves are not the best team in their conference. So yeah. Honestly, I truly think the most interesting storyline of this MLB season, regardless of what happens in the World Series, most likely, is the fact that the Dodgers managed to choke. So you win the wild card game. You get over the hump of beating the Giants in the NLDS, and you thought that was their, they're in the World Series now. Essentially, that's what we both thought. That's what I want to say. Probably 95% of the U.S. population thought. And they lose to the Braves. Listen, I'm not exactly sure on a lot of the contracts. I'm gonna do my research, as we get closer to the offseason, but it's gonna be interesting. What moves do you make? I mean, listen, if you could, let's just say you can bring this team back exactly the way it is right now. Would you do that? I mean, I would assume you would, but listen, I mean, this team it's just they choked, and I don't know what moves you would want to make.
Well, I can say some contract stuff. I mean, the Bauer situation, he technically isn't. I mean, he has an opt-out because he technically signed a 1-year contract just over 4 years. Scherzer's a free agent. Seager's a free agent, but you have Trey Turner. Justin Turner's a free agent as well. So Bellinger, I think next year's a free agent. So, yeah, they have some questions coming up. They have some guys that will be back, some guys that, we'll see if Seager comes back. Scherzer, does he come back? I don't know. So they definitely have some questions, but it's basically going to be the same team. And even if they had to add a couple more players, I think Chris Taylor also might be a free agent as well. But yeah, I think they definitely have some questions, and we'll see. They'll still be one of the top teams regardless. I think that's not really a question.
I mean, they can afford to lose Seager, Scherzer, Turner.
I mean, like Turner, yeah, like
and they
Justin
could probably
Turner,
still be the best team in the
league. Justin Turner could be gone. Seager could be gone because again, you have like a Gavin Lux that you could put in. You have Trey Turner, obviously. You just have so many pieces that you can just fill in. Like their bench players are basically starters on almost every single team. So yeah, I think they'll be fine. But they're gonna lose some guys. At least 2 guys are probably not going to be there that have been there for multiple years, or like a Scherzer type. So. Yeah, they definitely have some questions, but they'll be back there next season. If they don't win, I mean, I don't expect the Giants to be that good again next year because I think just everyone had a career year. So I expect them to win the division. Maybe the Padres somehow come in there, but yeah, they'll be back in the playoffs next year, and then we'll see what happens this time next year.
Can't believe the Dodgers. Yeah, but yeah. So I have Astros in 7. You have Astros in 6.
6.
Interesting. So we both taking the Astros. So, probably the Braves are going to...
I mean, I was going to say, the last time we did that against the Braves won. So
yeah.
Which I wouldn't mind seeing the Braves beat the Astros, but I think the Astros are the better team.
Yeah, I don't really care who wins this World Series. I kind of like the Astros. I kind of like the whole, bad boy thing. And I think a lot of people thought it was the cheating way more than it actually was. Obviously, the cheating still played an effect as to how good they were, but I think people might have underestimated how good this Astros team was in their prime years or whatever, just because of the cheating. So I think this is kind of, their revenge tour, if you want to call it, but yeah. Yep. We'll see. But that's pretty much it for this episode. Appreciate everybody who stayed to the end. Feel free to check out everything on the description, Clips channel stuff. I'll be coming out with the Patriots episode this week on the Clips channel. Brandon, this is kind of your off week since Cowboys are on a bye, or what are you planning?
Off week, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so feel free to check out that for my video, probably around Thursday. So yeah, that'll be exciting. Other than that, any quick NBA takes, really, or not much?
Nah, not much.
Yeah, I would say not much as well. We'll be back probably Sunday night. We'll see. Maybe, yeah. Just check out the description, check out Clips channel, whatever. We'll be back later. Bye.